Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining our inaugural Breaking Down Revenue Gen episode. My name's Grant Creef. I'm the CRO here at Search Kings Africa. And then my right-hand man behind the scenes is KG. He's part of the team at Search Kings Africa. And he'll make sure that he facilitates any questions. So make sure that you write down any comments or questions that you have throughout. So let's get straight into it. So today, in our inaugural episode, it's around understanding revenue generation. And, this isn't just another, fancy word. This has meaning, and especially now in 2022 and beyond, how we did things in the past, 2010, in the 1990s, has really, really evolved at an accelerated rate. And we need to be present in what is actually happening. And we need to adapt both our teams and our businesses in such a way where we really can unlock the most potential, in growth for our businesses. And at the end of the day, forget leads, forget MQLs or any type of acronym that you can think of, whether it be in the marketing or sales or customer success process. We really need to make sure that it turns all into revenue. And that's why we've chosen to structure this around the topic of breaking down revenue gen. And then in future, we're really going to explore the practicalities in certain areas within revenue generation. So if we then jump straight into this, what I'm going to chat about today is the traditional breakdown of how we've done it for centuries, right, in terms of revenue gen. Then we're going to go into the foundations, in my view, when it comes to what is happening in 2022 and beyond. And then more specifically, looking at the 4 stages of demand, which is going to make sense shortly. All right. So if we go down into the traditional breakdown side of things, we can understand that revenue generation has really been split into departments, into silos. And we've called those departments or those areas marketing, sales, and customer success. So as a whole, it's great. It really allows people to understand what lane they're in specifically. But in 2022 now and looking forward, we really need to be a lot more detailed how we describe the revenue generation activities. And so that's why if we kind of go back now and we go to the fundamentals of revenue gen, it really is, first of all, the business imperative to generate revenue profitably as well, right? So not just revenue like many of these US startups, just, raising funding and never actually getting to profitability, but really generating revenue profitably. But revenue generation activities are linked to the demand for what you're offering. That's why then the focus needs to be on demand, right? So more specifically then on the demand side of things, if we then look at the 4 stages of demand. So taking revenue generation, instead of looking at it purely around the departmental side of sales, of marketing, sales, and customer success, split it into the stages of demand for what you offer. The first stage is the create and channel demand stage. This is where you're creating and channeling demand for what you offer. Now, bearing in mind, create. So that's where you create that demand that hasn't existed beforehand. And then channeling is the existing demand out there, channeling that to the next stage. And the second stage is where you capture the demand, right? And if you think about in the B2B space, a lot of the times where we capture demand is when someone fills out an inquiry form on our website. In the B2C stage, when you're selling to like a D2C, like direct to consumer, when you're selling then direct on an e-commerce store, as an example, that's actually happening instantaneously when they check out. Finally, on the third stage, we've got where we convert that demand that we've now captured. And then the fourth stage is where now that you've converted the demand, it's turning to revenue, we fulfill that demand, right? So I'm going to go into specifically defining what each of these stages actually mean so that you can start considering how this applies to your business or within your team. And whether you're a business owner, at management level, or someone involved in marketing or sales, this is something that can apply to both B2C as well as B2B businesses. So if we go to the first stage in the create and channel demand stage, this is defined as the moment when an anonymous individual consumes your content via distribution channel. So we take this in a practical manner. If you think about creating demand, I want you to think about it really along the lines of online and offline distribution channels. And so online distribution channels could be LinkedIn, right? Here's an example of a post that I've made in relation to revenue gen. It's talking about the distinguishment between a customer and versus a consumer, and we need to actually define that differently. So online could be LinkedIn, it could be WhatsApp communication, it could be a Facebook group, it could be like a review on Google, right, for your business. All of that is around the online distribution channel. Then offline distribution channels, that's then, what I would define as let's call it the traditional media, like newspapers, billboards, and all of those types of mediums. The key points here around the create and channel demand stage is we need to make certain that when we are creating and channeling demand for what we offer, and a gentleman by the name of Chris Walker from the US actually really defines this super well, is he says that we need to focus on creating demand first at a category level for what we are offering. Okay. So if you think about it, like if I use Search Kings Africa as an example now, we're specifically focused in the Google Ads world. So we are a Google Premier partner. We're focused on Google Ads. We don't do social media management. We don't do Facebook ads as an example. Let's call it Meta ads. Now, the crux here, though, is that we still can create demand for the category, right, of online advertising. And so within that particular breadth, we need to then, as Search Kings Africa now, what we've done as a strategy is we're focusing on revenue gen, right? So revenue gen, because that then includes the traditional marketing, sales, and customer success, even though we're not necessarily going to provide a specific product or service around, say, customer success per se. We really want to make sure that people see us as an authority and providing really relatable and insightful content when it comes to the category, right, of, say, online. And so in saying this, really think about what category your business is in, and really think about how you can start positioning to own that category, or to at least create a significant contribution to that category, such that people that weren't even interested in what you're offering overall, not your specific product or service, but overall, they actually become aware of it and realize, hey, maybe I should actually be looking at this solution to this actual problem now that is solvable. And then people that are out there in the market, you're needing to focus then on channeling their demand to you, right? Or to your business. But you first start in trying to attack the category, and then you then go to what you specifically are offering. And so practically, again, to give you an example, I'm sharing in this particular LinkedIn post about customer versus consumer, how we need to create a distinguishment there. Someone might find that really interesting, but they're not in buying mode yet, right? They're not even realizing that, they need what we're specifically offering. And so over time, as they're consuming content that myself, Brett, the founder of Search Kings Africa, and whatever else, we're creating online, if they're consuming that content over time, and then they finally start, maybe one post that I share is specifically around the fact that we've, helped the client, 5x their return on investment when it comes to Google Ads. Then they realize, hang on, then clearly this is a thing, and they've been taken through the process for us then channeling that demand toward our offering. All right, so then that's the create and channel demand stage, the first stage. Then if we go to the second stage, which is capturing the demand. So the definition here, right, is if you revert back to stage one is specifically around anonymous, right? So anonymous people, we don't necessarily know them individually, but capture demand at this particular stage. This is the point at which an individual takes action to provide you with at least one data point of personal information. This is someone DMing you. This is someone commenting on a post, because now you, of course, see their full name as an example. This is someone filling in the inquiry form. This is someone signing up for your newsletter. This is all, these are all events and examples of you capturing demand, okay? Again, the demand that someone has can be, of course, urgent, as in I need this right now, or they're still in a discovery phase where you capture that demand through, say, a newsletter sign up, and then over time they then they then build in the stage in which they want to actually now chat with you directly. But I still consider all of those types of examples as the capture demand stage, where anonymous becomes known, and you now know at least one piece of personal information about someone that has engaged with you via online or offline. And so if we look at it, funnily enough, in terms of B2C, so e-commerce stores as an example, where this happens is actually, it's capturing demand can either happen by someone signing up for a newsletter, or it can actually happen then where they have added something to a cart, they've created an account, but then they haven't really like exited and checked out. And you know, where that auto or the automation happens, where you message the person, email them because they've signed up, so they've given you their email address. That for me is the capture demand state, right? And so then they haven't necessarily now checked out. They've, I don't know, something happened, load shedding, or just genuinely got cold feet. And so then what happens now is we want to make sure that captured demand as soon as possible, or as reasonably as possible, then is going to move to then the third stage, which is the convert demand stage. And so if we look then at the third stage, which is now where we convert the demand that we've captured, we focus on that conversion. So the meaning, or how I define this, is that this is the stage at which an individual contractually commits to buy your offering in exchange for economic gain. And so we know this in the B2B space. It's when someone signs, say, a purchase order, or when they sign a contract, or when they actually EFT you, to actually begin the service offering or the delivery of the goods. In the e-commerce or the B2C side of things, more likely than not, this is sitting where someone checks out, right? So when they check out, then it's completely fine. You know exactly what's happened. Again, the B2B and B2C is different here, where in B2B, more likely than not, the situation is that you'll capture demand and then the conversion of demand may happen later. Like the sales cycle may be very, very, very long. But in the B2C side, you'll find that the capture demand and the convert demand stage possibly happens immediately or in unison, because someone's added to cart, they've checked out, and immediately, so you've captured and you've converted that demand with them checking out the basket. And so again, if you think about your business now, the crux here is that we need to make sure that any demand that you are capturing through your website, through DMs, through emails, through whatever means that's practical to your type of business, that you have a very effective and efficient conversion demand stage. And again, this is terminology now that we're at Search Kings focusing on standing by, because it just makes practical sense in terms of the process. And it still links, and I'll get to it now, it still links them to the traditional roles in terms of marketing, sales, and customer success. All right. And then if we go straight to then the fourth and final stage, this is, of course, when we now convert the demand. Now we need to fulfill that demand. We need to fulfill or even supply that demand for what we're offering and for why they came to us in the first place. And so I define this simply as the complete delivery of your offering. It can be a service, it can be a good that you're providing, or a mix of both. But fundamentally, we need to fulfill that demand. And that then the natural consequence that you want to delight your customers in such a way where there's positive reviews that happen. And then actually then restarts the cycle where if someone's reviewing you after you fulfilling demand to meet their expectations, if not exceed their expectations, you then are in a position where they're actually going to contribute, right, towards you creating more demand, right, in stage one, because then that is going to be, as we know with regards to reviews are one of the 6 persuasion elements that we use within marketing and sales. And that's a social signal around someone else has done this before and they are recommending you. Therefore, if I'm looking at possibly exploring this further, well, that's a positive signal. I'm going to take it seriously. And so those are the 4 stages. So just to recap, we've got, of course, the traditional form of where people focus on marketing, sales, and customer success. But I think from an activity point of view, to make it more practical, it's better to look at then that in 4 stages of demand for what you're offering, which is where you create and channel the demand, stage 1. You capture the demand, stage 2. You convert that captured demand, stage 3, and then you fulfill that demand. And then that cycle can repeat itself overall. Now, if you're listening to this on podcast, or if you're watching this on YouTube or wherever, what you can actually look at now in terms of the links between stage 1 and stage 2, as an example, that is marketing. So create and channel demand and capture demand. Marketing fits between that links, marketing links that, right? And then you've got capture demand moves to convert demand. Sales links that. And then you've got convert demand to fulfill demand. Customer success links that. Customer success has to execute on, once the demand is converted, it needs to now fulfill it. And so why this is important to note is that we're living in 2022, and because of the non-linear nature of how people are buying now, and the multi-device and multi-environments that we're going through the process of buying, we need to then know that there is an overlap, let's say, between marketing, sales, and customer success. And this then linkage between these 4 stages of demand, I think is a really, really helpful way, so that you don't necessarily get confused in terms of your team now, because you most likely structured them in terms of marketing, sales, and customer success. You can explain it in a way for them to now know, okay, hang on, like if I'm in marketing, I'm both assisting with capturing of that demand and creating and channeling demand, right? And then in sales, they're linking with capturing demand and then converting demand. So that means that marketing and sales teams have to work together now. I think gone are the days where we, work in silos, where marketing has one set of metrics that they need to tick off, and then sales has one set of metrics. What these 4 stages allow us to focus on is what really is important, which is revenue generation. And the best way, if you're using a CRM, a customer relationship management software, as an example, or anything, even if it's on Excel, you then sit in a position where you have a pipeline, right? A sales pipeline, and you're able to then calculate what we call sales velocity. And that's what we can do in another episode. But fundamentally, what this means is that marketing and sales, right? They are then measured not necessarily on inputs, and a lot of the times they are unhelpful metrics, like, I don't know, number of visitors to your website, or the number of people that sign up, to download an ebook or something. Like, is that really what they should be measured on? No, they should be measured on the health, right, and the trajectory of your sales velocity, which is, of course, the pipeline side of things. And so the pipeline of potential customers, as well as how effective you're converting those customers, is super, super, super important. And that actually moves the needle. So then if we place less emphasis on trying to manage the teams in silos, what it allows us then to do is focus on really moving the needle and where it matters, which is our pipeline. And so if the teams now can align and making sure that they all are contributing towards that, giving you a simple example here, if marketing does their role in creating and channeling demand for what you're offering, right? And they set a website up, if you're in the B2B space, and they set a website up that really within 5 seconds, someone understands what you're offering, how it benefits them, and what do they need to do to actually get it. And they've been given that exposure over time around specific content that's relevant, so that when they get to the point where they're inquiring through, say, your website, when they complete that inquiry form and you've captured demand, the person is more likely than not 70% of the buying journey. And so what this means is that the sales team now that then takes that potential or takes that opportunity now, they are in a far better position, because now the prospect is 70% of the way there, because marketing did their job, because they helped create demand for what you're doing and channeling that demand at the right time. And so if you think about it, then you may have less leads coming through your pipeline, but the quality represented by the actual conversion rate of those deals is higher. And so the net effect that we ultimately want to see is that your sales velocity increases because the quality is right, and it's not necessarily then about volume. And so I think just in terms of the practicalities, B2B, this is super, super important, right? And then B2C, I think it's worth noting here the fact that, if I just remove this, so it's worth noting here that the fundamental difference then between a B2C business and a B2B business is the fact that B2C businesses don't have a sales team. So if you think that a B2C business, like a retailer, they can't run around and knock on people's doors like we did in the 1980s and 90s. They have to make sure that they create and channel that demand. And so that means that they need to create content that is relevant, that is useful. They need to create awareness around what you're actually really offering. And if you do not succeed at doing that, then no one's coming in. No one's coming into whether your online e-commerce store or coming into your physical bricks and mortar store. And you can't now send out salespeople to do anything. And so that's why I think if you're in the B2B space, it's very important to pay attention to how B2C businesses have had to do it, right? So they haven't had an option. Versus B2B now, we have got a sales team, right? For the most part. So they have got a sales team. They have got SDRs or sales development reps, or they have got, business development reps. And at the end of the day, if you think about it now, like a B2C business, as in, okay, hang on, imagine if I didn't have a sales team. Imagine if I couldn't, whether it be, figuratively or actual physically, knock on doors using my sales team. If I couldn't do that, what would I need to do to get the right content and to create demand and channel that demand in such a way where I could capture that demand via the website, right? And again, speaking back to what Chris Walker mentions around the category, how can you create demand around your category and then drip it down to around your brand, around actually now you? And it's not necessarily, 1, 2, and then you go straight into brand. It's really, it takes time, but over time you should find then that people are naturally gravitating and being channeled towards. And that's when you use the mix of both organic as well as paid tactics. And I think just to give a final point here, and then we'll get to any questions, but I mean, at Search Kings, we've literally positioned the business now for these 4 stages of demand. And we've realized that for our customers, so we've got over 200 customers, in South Africa and actually in England and Australia and Singapore. And so literally what we've done is we've positioned our business going forward where in the marketing side of things, how we're helping people create and channel demand, right? We're helping you create and channel demand specifically using Google Ads, right? We're focusing on being a master of one, not a jack of all trades, because we know that complexity of Google and how it evolves. So that's where we've chosen to play. And which, remember, includes also YouTube because Google owns them. And then the second stage of demand, meaning the capture demand stage, we've now got our in-house, web conversion design and development team. So what that means is that we're designing websites specifically that are conversion focused, all right, to capture demand, right? So, I mean, they use the term, conversion. So when you convert, people on your website, but ultimately that state is a capture state where you literally capture that demand on your website or via your website. And so we're now designing for businesses, small, medium, large. We're helping them design websites that increase the probability of capturing demand when it is channeled to your site. And then the final, the third stage around converting demand, we've recognized that there's a lot of businesses that, so you can channel the demand, capture the demand, and then they're just really ineffective or inefficient at converting that demand. The sales process is really, really flawed. It's manual. There's no technology being used, so people are really, really struggling. And so what we've done now, we've actually implemented and introduced, a CRM solution for them, which we call, we're the channel partner in South Africa for Pipedrive. And so we've introduced a CRM here because we know we'll need to help people around increasing the conversion of that demand that's being captured via their website or, or elsewhere. And then we're staying out of the Fulfil Demand stage because we're not going to actually help them actually deliver on what they promised. I think that would be stretching it a bit too far. But ultimately, that's how we position the business around exactly what we're focused on doing. And if you think now about your business, I really encourage you to consider if you have really positioned your business to create and channel demand, or are you reacting to the natural consequence of you having customers, those customers referring you, so you getting then the demand just purely through word of mouth. And I will say that there will never be an activity that will beat word of mouth, right? So no matter what, and so therefore word of mouth is gold. But what I'm getting at is that when we struggle, when we face economic recessions, or when we're under pressure from competitors, it's because we've been resting on our laurels around people are going to refer us because of the great service. And so therefore we have a shortage then of more demand being channeled to the demand capture state. And if we have a shortage, that's when we panic, that's when we react. And my encouragement here is that before, even if things are going well and lots of referrals are happening, you need to make sure that you at least are considering and then putting even small plans in place and tactics being executed to at least solidify a channeling of that demand that's coming through. So thanks so much. I hope that kind of gives you a nice overview in terms of the breaking down of Revenue Gen. This is what we're going to be using going forward. And I think at the end of the day, we really need to make sure that from a South African perspective as well, that we can offer practical advice around businesses. So the next episode, what we're going to focus on is we're going to focus on conversion design of your website. So we're going to look at some practical examples around how you can design and optimize your website so that it increases the probability of you capturing demand. And I think just to draw a distinction here between conversion optimization and then conversion design. So conversion optimization is where you take your website and you just optimize from there, right? So you possibly tweak the call to action, you tweak some of the copy that's on there, the headlines, and so that's optimizing and tweaking on what is already there. Conversion design is you designing the wireframe from scratch. And that's what we've developed over the years, is a proprietary wireframe that we use when we design sites that it's focused on capturing demand. It's not focused on winning, a beauty contest or anything like that, or you feeling happy about yourself because yours looks prettier than your competitors. It's about capturing demand. That's our core, kind of objective when it comes to helping people in the design side, of their websites. So Hope that makes sense. Kagiso, are there any questions that anyone has asked?
No, Grant, no questions in the chat at the moment. However, I did want to ask you if there is any tips, right, or practical ways in which marketing managers or even people who run companies are able to break down those silos, specifically with regards to like the marketing team and the sales team. How is there a way to better give it like them a synergy and a flow?
So to me, I think that at the end of the day, it's what we measured on, right? So you can't ask someone to, you can't ask the marketing team to, okay, all right, this is what we're going to focus on now, when you still measure them on how many leads you generated for us this week or this month. Because naturally, we are always going to move in the direction of what we are measured on and what our performance is deemed to be good, bad, and great type of thing. So what I would then encourage, whether it be business owners or decision makers in the business that have influence over marketing and sales, I'd really encourage you to look at how you have structured your KPIs, and if you haven't really got any formal process in place right now for your teams that are doing the marketing and the sales side of things, think about what you have been naturally expecting of them. What are your meetings like in terms of your conversations? Is it always that you're bringing up the fact that, hey, we haven't got X number of inquiries, or hey, we haven't got X number of calls this week? And if it has been like that, I think then that's at least a trigger or a catalyst for you to now start reviewing, okay, maybe what should we be looking at holistically for the team so that they understand their role, but that their roles are completely interdependent and that they can't operate in silos, they have to share. And so to give you a practical example here, what we've done from a customer success side of things is we've asked customers, we've interviewed customers informally, but we've been asking them around like what's happening within their businesses. Currently right now, what's the priority? What are the bottlenecks? If they, I love this question. If they could like wave a wand and something would appear, what would that be beyond more customers? Because that's an outcome. And for me, that really has been significant, because now we've taken both quantitative, but more qualitative data around their feedback. And then we've looked at how we can optimize the sales process. All right. And we've looked at how then we can also position a marketing, for a better execution than of us creating and then channeling the demand for what we're offering. And I think that often we assume too much. So we assume most of the times of how our customers actually are. We come up with, say, a customer persona, and we said, this is our customer. And you've gone in and it's quite theoretical. And we haven't actually just gone to our existing customers and said, hey, can you maybe just tell me a bit more about your business, or what it is that you're focusing on? Well, even asking them something as intimate as, hey, how did you find us? How did you find us? Was it through a referral? And right now in 2022, how are you finding other services? How are you looking for, say, a social media management company, or how would you do this? And really trying to just jump into their psyche of how they make decisions will help you then position yourself better to create and channel demand, and ultimately then capture that demand, which you'll convert more effectively if you then understand. And to give you again, because to make sure that this is practical and not theoretical, practically for our business, we've realized. So we looked at our in our CRM. So we looked at then our won and lost deals, and what we noticed is that, and this may seem obvious, but again, this is now empirical data. It's not my opinion. It's not assuming. We've got data to back this up. It's literally, we noticed that the deals that we were losing, like 90% of the time, that a deal never had a decision maker in the first meeting, in the first proposal or discovery call, that would be lost. Like 90%, like minimum of 90% of times, that is going to be a lost deal when I'm not speaking with the actual decision maker. And so we recently signed a business in the B2C space, e-commerce, and the marketing, the person head of marketing, she actually then said, okay, cool, like, can you do the proposal? And I said, brilliant. Just before we go on, is there anyone else that you need to get this over the line? And then she replied, yeah, my CEO, like, I have to, kind of propose this to him. So I said, okay, well, to kill two birds with one stone, can I maybe, set up another call where I'll go through everything? You don't have to then be in a position where you're going to be asked questions that you don't know, possibly, or, have to revert back and it becomes super, super broken telephone. So can we actually set this meeting up? And she said, okay, cool, I'll try. And then she messaged me and said, hey, cool, I've got the CEO. He's going to come to the next meeting. And I said, brilliant. And then 30 minutes before, she said, is the CEO, does he really have to come? Like, can you not just give me the proposal? And I said, unfortunately, I'm like, let's reschedule then, because I really want to make sure that this is mutually beneficial, and we actually can ask the questions that are important right then and there. So she said, okay, fine. She went back. She convinced the CEO to join. He joined and he signed the next day. And so what a sales cycle would be in terms of that, it would possibly be even 2 weeks longer, 14 days. And that thing was a 3-day sales cycle in total. And the best part is then that we know if someone is the decision maker, the probability of them actually turning into a one deal is exponentially higher. And we wouldn't have been able to do that unless we started asking and analyzing the data from them. Brilliant. So I think just a massive thanks to, Charles, Johan, to Dean, to Mike, and Natasha. Really, really appreciate everyone joining today. And if you have any other questions, reach out to me on LinkedIn, reach out to KG as well. And if you have any ideas of what you want in future, feel free to ask, because we're really committed to just sharing whatever we're experiencing. And from there we can really create value.